Welcome to episode 73 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man known at our local church as the Deacon of Coffee, John Scott Sloat.
Doc, what's happening?
Well, I am embracing the summer mode that we have entered into.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
It's lovely. I love pulling into campus and there are just no cars.
I mean, we love our students.
Absolutely. We also love it when they leave.
Yeah, sure.
There's a both and there.
Yeah. It's also nice to be able to come into the office in some shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and at least I can. I don't know what your dress code rules are. I think it's pretty casual.
I think it's just dress.
I mean,
like have clothes.
I
That's
mean,
my
technically, I'm not even under contract right now. So
you just happen to be gracing us with your presence.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm dedicated to the show. Dedicated to the show. If you'd like to show some dedication to the show, you can connect with us
that was nice.
on Twitter at V&S You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Facebook page, so you can give that a like and a follow, Various and Sundry Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. And we do have a couple of video episodes up there.
Yeah.
And as well as all of our audio episodes. And we would love for you on whatever platform you access the show to leave us a review and, of course, a 5-star rating.
So, by the way, did you know? I think we've discussed this, but my Facebook got hacked. Did you?
You mentioned this to me. Have you recovered it?
No. And since it's been hacked, when I try to update through like our podcasting host, try to update our Facebook page, it won't update.
Really?
Yes. So we're going to have to troubleshoot that bad boy here in the future.
All right. That could be a problem. We'll have to figure that out. We'll get our massive IT staff on that for the program here. So, well, John, we have breaking news on the podcast here.
Okay. What do we got going on?
So last summer, we chose a book that we incrementally read through as a podcast. We took 4 weeks last summer where we worked our way through the book Gentle and Lowly.
Over the course of a month or so.
Yeah, so 4 episodes in a row where we took – so the first 3 episodes we probably took, like 10 minutes to discuss whatever chunk we had read for that week.
Yeah.
And then the 4th week we interviewed Dane Ortland, the author, for the episode. And I'll just say I feel like we were on the front end of the Gentle and Lowly bandwagon there. It was just starting to get – like when we decided to do that, to pick that book, it was just starting to take off. And actually we were into problems. You remember this? Where listeners could not acquire the book because it was just selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, Dave in Ohio shot us a message and was just like, dude, this is like a $100 book on Amazon.
God bless capitalism.
Yeah. And like the week we announced it, it sold out on Amazon.
Yeah, the cause and effect relationship there is still a little murky to me. I think we might have been at least partially responsible.
Yeah, I'm an optimist. We're responsible.
Yeah. So in any case, we are ready to announce this summer's book that we are reading on the podcast. And that book is entitled Jesus the Great Philosopher, Rediscovering the Wisdom Needed for the Good Life by Jonathan Pennington.
Yeah.
So, John, why did we pick this book?
Well, it's aimed I think it's accessible to all people, first of all. Yep. It's a topic that both of us are knowledgeable in, ish. And it's not super long, and I think it's something that you and I would be able to read, discuss, and have our listeners join in with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the things I'd want to stress, some of you, when you heard the title, might be like, oh, I'm not into philosophy. Like I don't want to debate the existence of the chair if I leave the room kind of philosophy stuff. But this is not that kind of book.
Yeah.
And Pennington's a very good writer. It is chock full of pop culture references where he's sort of anchoring and illustrating points and that sort of stuff. So Pennington is a professor at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville.
They're very good, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Nice pronunciation there.
And I think I've told you this story. We met in class at Trinity.
Yes.
We were both students together at Trinity for our MDiv. He was in his last year when I was in my first year.
Okay.
But do you remember what class we had together where we met?
Was it Don Carson, Advanced Greek Exegesis?
Advanced Greek Grammar, yes.
Advanced Greek Grammar.
Yes. So we actually sat next to each other, I believe, for much of that semester. And so good experience. We've kept in touch throughout our various career paths.
Various and sundry career paths.
There you go. Him going off to it was Aberdeen, I think he did his PhD at, if I remember
right. It was somewhere in Europe, yeah.
Oh, no, St. Andrews.
Okay.
St. Andrews. And so in any case, and we have already locked him in for an interview.
Which we didn't do with Dane last year. We didn't think that far ahead.
No, yeah, we kind of rolled the dice on that one.
Yeah.
So a little better planning on our part this year. So yes, Jesus the Great Philosopher. We'll have a link in the show notes to find it on Amazon.
Yeah. And we do get kickbacks from that, so please follow that link. Purchase the book through that link.
Buy
Absolutely.
one for yourself. Buy one for every family member. Buy one for everyone in your church for all we care.
Yeah,
but,
Christmas presents. They're wonderful.
Absolutely. So that is our big breaking news. Let's move on to to what's going on in the world of sports. So NBA playoffs. We got through the play-in tournament. I guess we're calling that now.
LeBron hit a pretty excellent shot. That seemed to be the big headline of the play-in is LeBron hit a shot against the Warriors.
Yeah. Hit a shot to win the game against the Warriors, and sort of almost a Steph Curry kind of shot in the sense of it was well past the three-point line, late shot clock. Sort of a fadeaway step back. Steph Curry was actually sort of defending him. And he got the Lakers in. The Grizzlies also made it in through the play-in tournament in the West as the 8th seed. And then in the East, the Celtics and the Wizards made it into the playoffs. So let's talk a little first-round action. So every series has played one game.
So it's early.
Yeah, so as we're recording on Monday morning this week. So tell us about your Knicks.
Well, they got beat. Madison Square Garden, first of all, was a lot of fun.
It was really nice to see fans. And that they was it 50% that they allowed
I think
capacity?
So, yeah.
But they were loud.
Mm-hmm.
It made a difference. It was the first time I've watched a basketball game in a long time where it's like you can really hear the real fans, not the fake crowd noise that they kind of put in the background. But they made a difference in that game. They gave the Knicks a little bit of an advantage. They just couldn't cash in on it.
One reflection I had coming out of that game is Spike Lee looks pretty old.
Yeah.
When the Knicks are as bad as they were, you don't watch for maybe since 2013. The games, checking scores, those sorts of things. But Spike Lee's aged. He looked old.
Indeed. It seemed to me like the Knicks, Randall didn't have a great game. He struggled.
He did.
And yet, the Knicks were still in it. Derrick Rose hit a shot to tie the game. With 9 seconds left. Yeah. And then Trae Young hit a shot to win it for the Hawks with a second left. Mm-hmm. So, good competitive game. And of course, 7-game series.
It's a long series.
Long way to go. Long way to go. But that reveals a bit of a trend in that in these series – you have the lower seed winning games. Mm-hmm. So technically the Hawks are the 5, so they won game 1 against the Knicks. The Mavericks beat the Clippers in game 1 of their series.
Yeah,
that's a 6-3. The Grizzlies last night beat the Jazz. That's the 8-1. And then Portland beat Denver on Saturday to go up 1-0. And Portland's the 5 or the 6? No, it'd be the 5. They're the 5. The 5 over the 4. So again, a 5 over a 4, it doesn't feel as much like.
No.
But when you've got an 8 beating a 1, that feels
that's a big deal. Yeah.
Oh. My son Jake is on record, even before they won last night, as saying the Grizzlies are going to beat the Jazz in the first round. So
wow, that's bold.
It is bold. He bases that on the fact that the Jazz don't have Donovan Mitchell. And so we'll see. I'm not sold on that. The other big news on the NBA playoff front was Chris Paul getting injured. Did you see this?
I did not. I did not see this.
So this would have been yesterday, Sunday, against the Lakers. Suns went on to win the game, but I think it was the third quarter. I can't remember when in the game it happened, but Chris Paul went down with a shoulder injury, his right shoulder, if I remember correctly. And he did come back into the game, but he wasn't the same. Like you could tell he was having a hard time handling the ball even and that sort of thing. So the Suns did hang on to win that game, but that's a pretty significant injury in that series. So it'll be interesting to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what some rest does for him. Does that heal up? Does it tighten up? Like what happens with that shoulder?
Yeah, we'll see. Anything else on NBA playoffs before we move on?
I don't think so. Yeah, excited to see more games and see where we're at next week. I mean, we should, in theory, we should still be in these series.
I would think so, unless there's a sweep. Even with a sweep, though, if they're doing every other day.
Well, I don't think the Knicks are playing. Oh, they're playing Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember.
Probably Tuesday. Yeah. They typically only would give one game in between, or 1 day between games, if they're not changing locations. If you change locations, sometimes they give you 2. Yeah. But maybe the biggest sports news over the weekend, don't you think, is Phil Mickelson at age 50 winning the PGA Championship. Yes.
Actually, it's running the headline on ESPN this morning over all these playoff games that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll confess I didn't watch any of it. I kind of kept tabs on the leaderboard once I saw he was leading through 36 holes. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. That's something worth paying attention to. And, so he did it at age 50. I'm 47. So I take this to mean that I still have 3 years to prepare for the PGA Tour and be competitive.
Yep. That's exactly what that means.
Yeah. I think that's the message there. But he became the oldest winner of a major championship. Do you know whose record he eclipsed?
Was it Jack Nicklaus?
Yep.
Okay.
At age 46, he won the Masters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I saw a graphic that had him on it, and then like the last guy that was a little bit younger won it I think it was 45, 44, something like that, in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
And the picture was just stellar.
Yeah.
It was just this old, this very old-timey man sitting there.
Yeah. I remember this would have been a little while ago, but Tom Watson was in major contention at the British Open 5 or 6 years ago, and he didn't end up winning. But if he would have, he was in his 50s at that point, so that would have. But still,
he had a stretch in his 50s that he played really, really well.
I mean, golf is really the only sport that you have that dynamic where a guy who is in his late 40s, even early 50s, can be competitive at the absolute highest level.
So I used to be in a golf league when I was an intern in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with guys at my church. Every Thursday evening, a group of us would go out and play. And there'd be all these younger guys. I was, I think, 22 at the time. And we used to get up there with these fat drivers and just try to hit it as far as we – and it'd go everywhere, right? There would be this one guy in his 60s who won basically every week, who'd go up there with this not wooden driver, but like very, very old steel driver, and just put 200 yards down the middle of the fairway every time. It didn't seem like he was swinging with like a lot of force or anything, and he just always won because he was just that consistent.
Playing fairway, green, 2-putt. There's your bogey.
Yep, and that's what he was doing every single week.
Yeah,
he would win.
Old man golf. So let's talk about the Mets. What's going on in baseball? This is the time of year where I don't follow what's going on in baseball.
So I can't remember if last week this had happened yet. Did we talk on pod about the guy getting hit in the face with the ball? Did you see this?
I did see it. I don't think we talked about it on the pod. No, it wasn't last week where we had the discussion about the rodent in the
the raccoon. Yes, the rat-raccoon situation.
I don't think we talked about the guy getting hit in the face.
Did you see it on social media?
I think I did see a clip of it, yeah.
So he took a 94-mile-an-hour fastball to the face, and I mean, just immediately blood is pouring from his face. He broke several bones in his face, and then was in the dugout the next game with just a swollen face. Texts the opposing manager, if I could see out of my right eye, I'd be in the lineup today. Sort of stuff. And I mean, it's just kind of come out. He's come and become like a myth in Mets lore of just like,
of course,
oh my gosh, he's just a really, really tough guy. And so he's had facial reconstruction surgery, and he's resuming baseball activities, throwing basically on today, Monday.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll be before? I know this has started at lower levels where they've put like the face, almost like a face mask, like on the helmets to help protect batters. It's at the lower levels. Like we're talking like little league and maybe even into high school.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I've seen it above that, but I just wonder how long it'll be before that happens. Like, is this going to be like for years in hockey, guys wouldn't wear the face shields because they're tough and And then finally, cooler heads prevailed of like, yeah, but why do you want to take a puck in the face? How does that prove that you're tough? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think there are other things that could happen. There's talk of moving the mound back a little bit. There's talk about that as well. But there could be some things that change because the pitchers are getting they're throwing the ball harder and harder and harder.
Right.
But they're getting more wild. They don't have the control in place. And so this is happening a ton. I mean, Kevin Pillar, who got hit in the face, said, well, I got a text from all the guys who've been hit in the face by baseballs. We have a group chat that I've been able to join now.
Yeah.
So, I think they're exploring some things. I don't know if it'll come to that because you got to be able to see that baseball pretty clearly,
Right, but I mean the face guards or face masks that you have at lower levels have a bar that comes across that doesn't cover the eye. So it just needs to be – you just need to reduce the gap enough so that a baseball can't really get through. So it doesn't have to be like a full shield or face mask per se. It just has to be – the opening can be small enough that a baseball can't really get through it.
It'll be interesting to see what that does to batting averages if they do something like that. I'm sure there'll be a ton of analytics on it.
Of course, yeah. If there's any sport that's beholden to analytics, it's baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Though basketball's not far behind it.
I haven't found a good basketball analytics website. Do you know of one?
I don't have one off the top of my head, no.
Okay. I love Baseball Savant. Like I'll go on there and follow games, see who has hard hit balls and those sorts of things in a game.
Gotcha.
I find that a lot of fun. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, speaking of things that are a lot of fun, we're going to talk today about travel and travel hacks. I feel like this has sort of been kind of on our radar from the early days of the podcast.
Yeah, because we love to travel.
Yeah. And so then, of course, once COVID hits, nobody's traveling. Mm-hmm. And now that we're starting to emerge from restrictions and such like that, it seems like an appropriate time to talk a little travel on the episode.
First lesson, don't question the government of Belarus,
Yes.
That seems to be top of the list today.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to fill in our listeners who may not have caught that news story?
Maybe I'll just – we've been talking sports for a long time. Maybe I'll just say Google it. But basically the president, dictator, I don't know what to call him, diverted a plane because he had an opposition journalist on it and arrested him on in his airspace.
Ordered a commercial airliner down.
And put I think a Russian MiG next to it in order to get it to Minsk.
Yeah. Yeah. What a world we live in. So John, why do you like to travel?
I enjoy well, part of it is I enjoy visiting cities. We live in the Midwest, particularly not a big city in the Midwest. So getting the opportunity to visit cities and see just the culture that's happening, seeing the artistry, whether it's street art or somebody making delicious food or coffee, I always enjoy that and just getting to walk around. And I think I get a look of wonder on my face a little bit when I'm walking through some of those cities. So any opportunity I get to go to a major city, spend time there, see the people, see how they live, that's always an exciting time for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, similar. I enjoy people watching. So just seeing people going about their daily lives in the city in particular. I mean, and I enjoy seeing the diversity and the breadth of God's creation. So whether you're in the city and you're seeing, just the fact that human beings have been given the ability and knowledge to be able to create these massive structures and all that comes with a big city, as well as, going out west and seeing the mountains and, seeing the ocean and just seeing what God has made and being in awe of the fact that, the God of the universe that made all of this, has the power to make all of that, has entered into a covenant relationship with me. I remember the first time seeing the ocean and just, you feel your smallness. You feel just, especially you start to put together, okay, this is the Atlantic Ocean. I'm looking east, and for literally thousands of miles, there's just nothing but water.
Yeah.
And you feel very small. But I enjoy both dynamics of that when it comes to seeing God's creation as well as human creativity in that. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of our favorite trips.
So should we break down trips that we've done? I mean, we've done the mystery trip. Do you want to take just 2 seconds and explain what that is a little bit, and that'll fill in, I imagine, some favorite trips of ours?
Sure. So
I don't want to presume that our mystery trips are your favorite trips, but
yeah, they'll make the list.
Okay.
So the basic concept of the mystery trip is and this is organized through Grace College here, and we advertise this trip because students are required to do a cross-cultural experience as part of their education here, and so we advertise this trip as a mystery trip because we don't tell students where we're going in advance, and we only tell them progressively as we are about to travel to each new location. So we pick typically 3, maybe 4 locations depending on the circumstances. And students don't know where we're going until literally we get to the airport. And then it's like, okay. And then we reveal the first location. We give each student an envelope that's got a sort of iconic picture of something in that location. So, for example, in when we revealed Sydney, Australia, we had the famous Sydney Opera House. That's sort of an iconic picture of that. And then we travel to the first location, spend a few days there, then we reveal the next location. So it's a great opportunity to see different parts of the world and fun to watch students' reactions as they find out where we're going.
Yeah. It's It's a joy. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've done 2 of those.
Yeah. Some of my favorite locations out of those trips. We did Sydney, Australia, and Sydney was beautiful. Any reflections from Sydney?
Good fish and chips.
Yes.
And it's a great city. We rented bikes.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
And biked all around the city. And they have bike lanes in their streets in downtown Sydney. And so going along the harbor, and that was just a lot of fun. Good fish and chips. Those are some of my memories from Sydney.
Yeah. So Sydney was a favorite of mine. Christchurch, New Zealand was another favorite. Helsinki, Finland, not the same trip, different trip.
Yep.
Was a wonderful, wonderful city. More coffee per capita is consumed in Finland than any other country in the world.
Indeed.
So my kind of people.
Yeah. And pastries. They're big on the pastries too.
They're big on the pastries. I think those are some of my favorite locations from Sydney. From the mystery trip. Any that you'd add?
I would add London.
Okay.
I enjoyed London. It's a very expensive city, but I really enjoyed London a lot. Other cities that we've been to on the mystery trip, we've been to Tokyo, and we also went to Reykjavik, Iceland.
Yes.
I think that covers all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, those certainly rank up there. Both of those mystery trips were great. I really enjoyed them. I think one of my favorite trips, I think it'll be hard to top this. If you said you have to pick one, I think I'd go with our first Israel trip.
Yeah.
That was in 2011. The first time I'd been there, I was co-leading it with Dr. Rotza, our Old Testament prof here, and my wife was with us. You were on that trip.
I was.
And we just had this amazing collection of people, favorite students and that sort of thing, that combined with, seeing Israel for the first time made it just a very memorable experience.
So the people on that trip were amazing. I think my beef with Israel trips in general is the on the bus, off the bus, site, sort of stuff. And there's no freedom to let's go explore the streets, or let's go to this part of town, or I think that was
there can be a little of that, very little.
Yeah,
but especially when we're in Jerusalem, we there can be some opportunities to kind of explore a little bit. Though one of the challenges with that is that there might be some areas of Jerusalem that you need to avoid, kind of thing. So in any case,
maybe Tel Aviv is a better city for that.
I don't know. Rockets are also being fired at Tel Aviv. So.
Okay.
But so let's talk some travel hacks. Just some things you've picked up along the way that you have found to be helpful. And I think on my list, many of these are more oriented towards the international side of things, but some can apply to domestic travel.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to?
Why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. Anytime I go to a city, the first thing that gets struck from the list of things I'm not going to do are the tourist locations. So like when we went to London, the Tower of London, those sorts of things, I just sort of take off. They tend to be really expensive. They tend to be overcrowded, and they tend to be probably not the best picture of what living in this city would be like. So I want to see those things from a distance, certainly. Like I want to see Big Ben. I want to see Tower of London. I want to see fill in the blank tourist location. But I also just sort of want to see it and go, okay, and go to a different part of the city. So usually the first thing I say is avoid tourist locations.
Yeah, I don't know that I would as sweepingly and categorically say it that way. I would say probably just be discerning. And here's where I think if you can find if you can get some local knowledge, this is key in just about anywhere you go, whether it's domestic or international. Being in contact with someone who lives in the area,
sure,
and can kind of sort out yeah, that's touristy, but it's still probably worth it.
Mm-hmm.
That one, that's a waste of time. It's overpriced. And actually, especially there can be, for some of these where it's like, oh, they'll sell an attraction as this gives you a great view of the city. And local knowledge might be like, you can get just as good a view of the city from this other place that's not as well known.
Yep.
And not pay $40 to go in.
So I know of this in New York City. Everybody talks about got to go to the top of the Empire State Building. Got to go to the top of the Empire State Building. I think you get a much better view of the city if you go to the top of 30 Rock.
Yeah.
If you go to the top of that building, you get one side you look out over Central Park. The other side you see the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building. You can see the Statue of Liberty from up there. I mean, you can see all the way down the island. It's quite stunning, particularly at night. I'd recommend Top of the Rock is what they call it.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears just slightly and talk a little bit about this gets related, I guess. Take the opportunity, and again, this is probably a little bit more applicable to cities than it is to other contexts.
Mm-hmm.
Though you can do it in other ways too. Try to at least devote some of the time you're in a location to an area where you can just kind of immerse yourself a little bit in the local culture. Whether that's a coffee shop, maybe it's in a park. Just there are places where you can go to just sort of observe, have a cup of coffee, and get away from some of the touristy stuff that you're talking about and get a little bit better feel of even what is life like here in this location.
We did that in Helsinki, if you remember. We went to, I think, the same coffee shop every day, and it was NBA playoffs, and the guy in the coffee shop was, I believe, a Dallas Mavericks fan and wanted to talk Mavericks basketball with us every morning after their playoff game, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Also in Helsinki, I remember there was a guy walking behind us who had married an American, we learned later, and he was trying to hear our accent to hear where we were from in the United States. And we struck up a conversation, and he actually gave us the recommendation for that coffee shop that we eventually ended up at.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Coffee shops are a big deal for you for sure.
Yes. I actually have a book that tells me excellent coffee shops around the world. So I usually try to mark those off and then try to notate in there when I've visited them. Another one I would add is, and I think mine are probably, as I'm looking at mine are probably more geared toward cheap travel. But I always say eat in the local areas of town or the outskirts of the touristy areas. I think you're going to find better food. I think you're going to find better deals when you don't eat at the city center. When you eat at these big restaurants. Sometimes when you travel with a group, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
But if you move to the outskirts of town, you can find better deals and better food oftentimes.
And that's where local knowledge is so helpful.
Yeah.
If you happen to know someone in the area, they can point you to that's sort of the well-known Italian restaurant in town, but the real stuff is 6 blocks away at this kind of hole-in-the-wall mom-and-pop place that locals around here know about, but doesn't have the splashy website that attracts the tourists.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of food, And this is something that for me is a bit of a stretch because my palate doesn't tend to be incredibly broad, but it is worth trying local cuisine.
Yes, it is.
Even if you're not going to like it, or even if you think, I don't think I'm going to like that. Now, I do have my limits. I'm not ready to necessarily try, say, some form of insect. I think I'd probably draw the line there, or snake eggs or something like that.
So I've done snake venom before.
Okay.
Would you do snake venom?
Probably not, unless there's a cultural situation that would cause offense if I didn't.
Okay. Yeah, they no. Where we go, it's not. They have so it's. You know how you walk down an alley in a city and there's shops on either side? It's sort of indoor, outdoor sort of feel.
Yeah.
This snake shop is in Taipei, Taiwan. and the whole outside of the shop is lined with like snake cages, and there's these big seem like 10 to 15 foot snakes that are just massive. Like you would have to drop like several mice in there to feed it or something like that. And for like $5, they'll bring out a sampler of different snake infused drinks. That's the snake soup, snake wine, snake bile, and snake venom.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, it's good. They'll rub their arms and go, it's very good for the skin. It's very good for the skin.
Of course.
I'm like, okay. And the person who took us there, it was like months before her wedding. She was going there weekly to drink this snake fluids of some kind.
What a world.
Yeah.
What a world. All right, what else you got, John?
To save money, I found that if you can't do this in a group. It has to be more probably on your own. But reversing big meals, so eating your biggest meal at breakfast and your smallest meal at dinner, that saves you a little cash. Also, waiters and waitresses are more apt to talk to you at breakfast, and so you can get some recommendations from some local people that way.
Yeah, I also recommend, especially on international trips, packing some snack foods that can help kind of carry you through maybe skipping a meal or just like,
a Cliff Bar, Kind Bar sort of situation.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something like that. So the time's getting away from us here.
We may have to do a part 2.
I don't know about that. So, all right, we'll have to be selective here on what we've got left. But
oh man,
unless you desperately want to do a part 2.
No. I can blitz through mine for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to make a couple of quick recommendations. I found it helpful having a standard packing list.
Yeah.
So that I'm not wondering, did I forget this? Did I remember this? Like I keep it in Evernote, so anytime I'm going somewhere, have it right up. Check. Okay, good to go. Let's go rapid fire. So back to you.
Okay. Use public transit as much as possible. Google Maps is really helpful for that. Another app is called City Mapper app. Mm-hmm. Really, really good.
Yep.
And see how far that public transit goes. I remember one time we took a bus in Reykjavik, Iceland, as far as it would go, as far as our pass would take us, and we ended up hiking for the day. And it was wonderful, and it was very inexpensive.
Yeah, absolutely. More on the international front, tips for beating some jet lag. As soon as you get on that plane, get on the schedule of wherever you're landing. So if it's nighttime where you're about to land, where you're going to land in like 6 hours, get to sleep right away.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into town, don't fall into the temptation of taking the nap. Push through the day, go to bed early in that evening, get yourself on that cycle as soon as possible.
Yep.
And use some melatonin if necessary to help.
Oh, yeah. I use a website for Europe called Savvy Backpacker.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you city guides, how to do it affordably, those sorts of things, how much a hotel costs, how much food costs, those sorts of things. Savvy Backpacker.
Yep. And also, traveling internationally, check into what your cell phone carrier, what their deal is, but oftentimes it's a better deal to buy a SIM card in country, in location.
Yes, absolutely.
And plug that right into your iPhone or whatever phone you've got. You can typically buy a card that gives you, unlimited text, unlimited calls, and data, which is an important piece. So you can use things like Google Maps and such like that. And often that's cheaper than using your carrier's international plan.
And then finally, my last one, track flight prices. So plan out your trips ahead of time, know where you want to go, and then use websites like Scott's Cheap Flights. He emails you when there's a cheap flight out there that you can go book right away. Really, really helpful. If you're going somewhere more specific at a certain date, Google Flight Tracker will help, or an app called Hopper. Yeah. And I've saved, probably $200 to $300 a flight by using some of those.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, it is episode 73, so we need to get ourselves an athlete. John, what do we got?
Yeah, so we have John Hanna. He was a guard for the Patriots.
Do you remember him?
Nope.
Before your time?
Nope. I was not born yet.
Not to be confused with the church history professor at Dallas Theological Seminary named John Hanna, who's a good dude.
Larry Allen. He's an was. He's still alive though.
Still alive, just not playing.
I started saying was. I'm like, oh, he's probably not dead. Well, he's not playing anymore. So anyway, Larry Allen, offensive tackle for the Cowboys 49ers.
Do you remember him?
Yes, I remember him a little bit.
Okay.
Dennis Rodman played. Well, he wore 73 when he played for the Lakers.
Yes.
I do not remember this
for
at all.
1 year when he played with the Lakers in 1999, he wore the number 73.
Wow. Okay. And who do we have for OSU?
We've got Rufus Mays. What a great name.
Rufus.
Played tight end and offensive tackle. Yeah, from 1966 to 1968, was part of their national championship team and was drafted by the Bears.
Nice.
Who do you like?
Well, if I'm going on name recognition, I'm choosing Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
You don't like that pick?
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. He, in some ways, is probably the most noteworthy athlete among that list. But he wore 73 for 1 year at the very end of his career.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me hesitate.
I'm okay going. I think probably the most accomplished person is it Larry Allen?
I don't know. Let's just go with Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, we're offensive line heavy in the 70s.
We are.
So getting an opportunity to go in non-offensive line.
We are. Yeah.
Is good by me.
Okay.
All right.
One thing we liked.
Yeah. So this weekend I finished a book by a scholar named Richard Belcher, Finding Favor in the Sight of God, a Theology of Wisdom Literature. It's in the New Studies in Biblical Theology series. It was an interesting read in terms of overview of the wisdom literature. So appreciate that. One of the things I love about the summer is I have way more time to read. So I can start cranking through the kind of backlog of books that are on my stack of read these relatively soon. So what about you?
A podcast I discovered over the weekend, the Piketon Massacre. So it tracks. It's a fascinating podcast. Now it does have some gruesome detail, but there's a family that was killed an hour south of Columbus.
Yeah, I know where Piketon is.
Yeah, and in 2016, I think 8 adults were killed at 4 separate locations, all of the same family, all killed execution style. One had dollar bills strewn over his body.
Okay.
And they're trying to figure out, like, basically who done it. So they've arrested people, but there's like some well, did they really do it? But they're awaiting trial still. So pretty interesting.
So it's called the Piketon Massacre.
Yeah.
So it's the podcast is just devoted to that story.
Yeah. I'm in season 1 right now. They do have a season 2 that's coming out right now, and I don't know what that touches, if it's a new one or if it's just giving updates on the
Gotcha.
This case.
All right. Well, on that morbid thought, we have we've done what we do on this show, various and sundry topics, right? We've talked Jesus the philosopher. We've talked NBA playoffs. We've talked about my future golf career in the next 3 years.
That's right.
We've talked travel hacks, and we have discussed, or at least mentioned, Dennis Rodman.
We moved pretty quickly through.
Yeah, he's an odd individual, which really does come out pretty well, I think, in the Last Dance docuseries that ESPN put out in the polls. And we, of course, talked about finding favor in the sight of God, and then John brought us down to the gruesome level of the Piketon Massacre pod. So
I love true crime.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. So I think in light of that, all that is actually, before we do that, a reminder. Go out and buy your copy of Jesus the Great Philosopher, and do it through our Amazon link in the show notes, so we can fill our pockets with filthy lucre.
And when are we starting reading that?
The episode that'll launch June 8th will be
the
the first week that we'll discuss, and we'll discuss the first 3 chapters.
Lovely.
So that's about 50-ish pages, but it's really it's a good read. It's not a heavy read. It's and Jonathan's a good writer. Like I said, lots of cultural references in there to help you. It's not going into the deep dive details of what the Stoics thought and what the Epicureans thought and that sort of stuff. So much more enjoyable than that. So I think now, all that is left for us to say is, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.